Were the Auschwitz gas chambers impossible because they had wooden doors? No, of course not. That's one of the silliest lies you'll ever hear about the Holocaust, but it's also incredibly easy to call out, so let's do it. So this claim is based on the wooden doors that you can currently see in the gas chamber of Crematorium 1 at the Auschwitz main camp. The claim that wooden doors can't be gas tight is based on a misrepresentation of this door as an original gas chamber door. It isn't. It was added after the war. This building stopped being used as a crematorium once construction of the 4 crematoria at Birkenau was completed in June 1943, and just under a year later the building was converted to an air raid shelter in May 1944. After the war, the building was modified to reflect its wartime use as a crematorium and gas chamber, as a central monument to all Auschwitz victims. For example, the chimney was rebuilt, and the partitioning walls inside the air raid shelter were knocked down in order to present this space as the gas chamber that it once was. So, to recap, this door was added after the war, and not a single historian has ever claimed that this flimsy and very clearly not gas-tight door is an original gas chamber door. Holocaust deniers also point to the fact that this door opens inwards in order to argue that this room wasn't a gas chamber. The argument here, of course, is that gas chamber doors should open outwards so they aren't blocked by corpses in front of them. Well, that's even more evidence for the fact that this door isn't original, and claiming that it was is again hugely misleading and the very definition of a straw man argument. It goes without saying that the Nazis themselves knew that gas chamber doors should open outwards, and in construction documents which survived the war, there is actually solid evidence of this realization. The 2 cellars of Crematorium 2 at Birkenau were originally conceived as morgues, but the ventilation systems integrated into the walls of cellar number 1 made this room the obvious choice to convert into a gas chamber, and in the original plans for the building, the doors opened inwards. But as you can see in this follow-up drawing, the SS architect Walter de Jaco modified these doors to open outwards. We know beyond any doubt whatsoever that the gas chamber doors were gas-tight, because in the construction documents which survived the war, there are numerous references to their gas-tight nature. For example, on the 5th of March 1943, the Auschwitz construction authorities placed an order with the camp's metal workshop for a handle for a gas door for Crematorium 2, and when the building was finished and handed over to the camp authorities, the transfer document describes the first cellar as having a gasdichte Tür, a gas-tight door. And in a letter of the 31st of March 1943, the head of camp construction, SS Sturmbannführer or Major Karl Bischoff, reminded the camp workshop of an order for a gas door for the first cellar of Crematorium 3, which must be exactly the same as the cellar door of Crematorium 2 opposite, with a rubber seal, a peephole made from 2 layers of 8mm glass, and a metal fitting. And once again, we know for certain that this door was gas-tight because an inventory table for the items inside Crematorium 3 once the building was finished refers to there being a gas-tight door in cellar number 1. That same letter from Major Bischoff also refers to an order of the 18th of January 1943 for 3 gas-tight doors for Crematoria 4 and 5. There is a typo in this letter which produces gas-tight towers instead of gas-tight doors, but an earlier reference to this order, dated 19th of February 1943, clearly refers to the fact that the items in question are doors. An order 13/2143 to the camp woodworking shop on the 15th of February 1943 demanded the construction of 12 gas-tight doors measuring 30 by 40 centimetres and to be delivered 5 days later on the 20th. These were the gas-tight shutters through which the gas could be inserted into the gas chambers of Crematoria 4 and 5. So as you can see, there's simply nothing academic or intelligent about claiming that these rooms were not gas-tight, and the dishonesty of claiming that they weren't because of one flimsy and completely irrelevant door speaks for itself. Their gas-tight nature was crystal clear to the people working on these buildings, such as this contractor who wrote on his timesheet that he was concreting the gas chamber floor in Crematorium 4, and to Fritz Sander, an employee of the company which built the crematoria furnaces, when he referred to cellar 1 of Crematorium 2 as a gas keller or gas cellar in this company memo. And of course, the gas-tight nature of this room was especially clear to the man responsible for getting it built, because in this letter to the head of SS construction, he explicitly referred to it as a Vergasungskeller or gassing cellar. The Nazis tried to avoid making explicit references on paper to the real purpose of these rooms, but mistakes did happen, and this slip was so sensitive the word was underlined in red pencil by someone in the construction office, and a note was made at the top of the letter in the same red pencil to another SS officer, SS Untersturmführer or Second Lieutenant Hans Kirschneck. Another reason why it's especially stupid to claim that wooden doors can't be gas-tight is because several wooden gas-tight doors from the gas chambers actually survived the war. Here, for example, is one of the 30 by 40 cm gas-tight shutters intended for crematoria 4 and 5. The remains of the gas-tight seal, in this case strips of felt, are clearly visible around the edges. More than one of these shutters was recovered after the war, and in fact in this wartime photograph of crematorium 4's gas chambers you can even see the shutters on the building. And here, for example, is a gas chamber door recovered from the ruins of crematorium 5 shortly after the camp's liberation. And here's another gas chamber door found within the camp's construction yard after liberation. The door has a gas-tight seal around the edge, there's no way to open it or close it from the inside, and the peephole has a grille over it for protection to stop people from interfering with it. The criminal nature of this door speaks for itself. It's indisputable proof of the intention to hold live human beings in a gas-tight room against their will. Holocaust deniers sometimes claim that the gas chambers were actually delousing chambers, designed for fumigating clothes and objects with Zyklon B, which was of course originally conceived as an insecticide. But the largest gas chambers, the first basements of crematoria 2 and 3, only had a single point of entry and exit, whereas delousing gas chambers require separate points of entry and exit in order to prevent cross-contamination. The idea, of course, is that you don't bring clean stuff out via the side where contaminated stuff goes in for treatment. So with this in mind, and coupled with the fact that there's not a shred of actual evidence suggesting that these rooms in the crematoria were ever used as delousing chambers, this theory can instantly be discarded as nonsense. I think the wooden doors line of argument is especially fascinating in particular because it shows us how unintelligent Holocaust denial truly is and how it can't possibly be considered as a genuine line of academic inquiry. Why is that? Well, first of all, as we've seen so far, there are numerous references to these doors' gas-tight nature. Discussing what they were made out of is pretty much irrelevant because we know that they were there and we know that they were gas-tight. And secondly, if wooden doors can't be gas-tight, then these rooms couldn't have been delousing chambers either, so that theory immediately falls flat on its face. Adding these two Holocaust denial claims together, well, that's the problem. They simply don't add up. But of course, nothing about Holocaust denial adds up. That's why it's a conspiracy theory that cannot explain why 85% of the people sent to Auschwitz disappeared and what happened to them if they didn't lose their lives there. While we're on the subject of delousing chambers, here's an excerpt from a cost estimate for a Zyklon B delousing chamber at Flossenburg concentration camp in Bavaria, Germany. Manufacture and delivery of dual-layered wooden doors for gas chamber with sealing edge and closure on all sides as well as frames and thermometers including fittings. Puttying and painting of wooden doors for gas chamber with 2 coats of protective paint. Dimensions from position 60. Of course, none of the crematoria and gas chambers at Birkenau survived the war, but some of the Zyklon B delousing chambers did. And guess what their gas-tight doors were made out of? Exactly. So, as you can see, it's absolutely indisputable that wood can be gas-tight, it's absolutely indisputable that the gas chamber doors at Auschwitz were gas-tight, and there is nothing honest or intelligent about questioning the veracity of this whatsoever.